okay with me. Just make sure you put it back in the stand. We have some muscles back here posteriorly. We have some muscles here anteriorly. I will point out that this is the iliac crest of the coxal bone. So these two muscles are literally internal. They're within the abdominal pelvic cavity. But yet, they have a role to play at the hip, in flexing the hip. This one here, you can see, eventually, if you follow its fibers, it goes down and inserts on the femur. This is called the psoas major. And there's a P in front of that word, but the P's silent, the psoas major. Okay? Its mate is this one right here, which we can see seems to have its origin on the iliac crest. It also has fibers that go down to the femur. This is called the iliacus. Okay? Depending upon when you've learned these muscle names, you may have learned them as a group, like we learned hamstring group and we learned quadriceps group. This group is oftentimes called the iliopsoas. All right? So, psoas major, iliacus.
Are those numbered on the model?
They are. And there's a funky looking one on here for the psoas major.
Okay.
All right? And then there's a number 2 on there for the iliacus.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Back here then we see hip extenders. Hip flexor, hip extender. This one everyone knew coming into the room. Okay? We call it the gluteus maximus. It is the larger muscle of a group of 3 gluteal muscles. The other one, the medium-sized one, is the gluteus medius. Gluteus maximus, gluteus medius. The minimus is not shown on here. We'd have to take something off to find it. Okay? Those 4 muscles, these 2 I can only show you on this model, so expect them, at least one of them for ID on test A. And then the medius shows up much better on this model than it does the new model. After we get through our hip flexors and hip extensors, don't worry about that thing there, we'll switch gears. Okay. Sorry about all that noise. I know that it's annoying. We'll switch gears and we'll start using this model instead. And for that we can get thigh and leg. So during the test, if this thing is in a upside down and it's not a good orientation for you, pull it out, rotate it around, do what you need. Just get the questions right, will you? Okay? All right? So let's look at 3 areas. We have anterior, we have posterior, and then we have medial. Okay? Let's start anterior first. There's a group in the front here called the quadriceps femoris group. Quad suggests 4 muscles. We'll see 3. The central one, the rectus femoris. Okay? Obviously noting that now we're in the femoral region, not the brachial region, so we're getting femoris names rather than brachialis or something like that. Flanking it on either side. I love it when I go bike riding, I see the real bike riders, and these things are massive on their legs, okay? This one is called the vastus medialis. Got to make sure you know what side of the body you're looking at. This is inner thigh, this is medial. This is vastus lateralis. Let me give you the numbers. The rectus femoris has a 20 on it. The vastus medialis has a 23, and the vastus lateralis has a 21. Those 3 muscles and 1 more make up the quadriceps femoris group. There are 2 others then on the anterior side. This nice long strappy muscle, which you can see comes from one side and then attaches on the other. Believe it or not, it is involved with hip flexion, but it's also a rotator of the femur, as you might expect, given its orientation. The sartorius. It has a number 24 on it. Sartorius. This one over here is annoying because it has an annoying name. We see this here, it's way up here, okay? But it eventually then attaches via a very long tendon or tract down onto the tibia. This is number 18, tensor fasciae latae. If you read about this muscle, you'll learn that it actually kind of helps stabilize the knee joint a bit, okay? Its attachment is referred to as the iliotibial band or the iliotibial tract. Now, I never really knew much about these until I started teaching this course, but I had a student a number of semesters ago. She's now a nurse, and she was an ultra marathoner. And the one race that she tried to compete in while she was in my class, these things got inflamed, these iliotibial bands, and she could no longer compete. She had to drop out of the race. These ultra marathoners are like 30-some miles, okay? And these things got inflamed on her for some reason, okay? Tensor fasciae latae, iliotibial tract, or band. We move around to the posterior surface. This is where we find the hamstring group. 3 muscles that we'll identify. Number 31, right here, biceps femoris. Obviously, this is a 2-headed muscle, okay? We can't see the heads, but that's it. This one here is superficial, and it's confusing for students. There's a portion of a deeper muscle there, and a portion of a deeper muscle there. The superficial one has a nice tendon that we can see. It's called the semitendinosus. The deeper one is called the semimembranosus. The 3 muscles, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, make up the hamstring group. Okay? The last group we can identify in the thigh area, these 3 muscles right in here. These are primarily adductors. They bring the lower limb closer to the midline of the body. The central one is the one that I often see in athletes. You see this bulge out a bit depending upon what they're doing. It's got a number 27. This is called gracilis. Okay? Immediately anterior to it, the muscle takes on the name of what it does. Number 26 is adductor longus. And the one immediately posterior, number 28, adductor magnus. If you read about these muscles, I would assume that the adductor magnus is a fairly large muscle in here, but we just can't see the whole thing. Okay, down on the leg then, the leg proper. I think we can organize it into 2 major areas. This area here, anterolateral, and then this area here, posterior. Let's start anterolateral. Your landmark that you can easily find then is the naked tibia. Okay, just feel around down there, and there's some connective tissue, but there's no muscle covering it. So then the first muscle, number 33, that follows along the anterior crest of the tibia is called the tibialis anterior. Okay, so the name helps us find it, tibialis anterior. Immediately next to it, number 34, if you watch the fibers and then they terminate into tendons that go to the toes, expect the name digitorum. The tendons go to digits. Now, when this muscle contracts and its fibers shorten, it pulls on the tops of the toes. So it's going to pull those up. It's not going to curl them under, it pulls them up. That's an extension. This is extensor digitorum longus, number 34. Tendons go to the tops of the toes. When you pull on those tendons, it pulls the toes up. That's extension. Okay? On the side then, we see this muscle here that goes down into the area of the ankle. It's hard to know exactly where the tendon goes, but it actually attaches to the side of tarsal bones. Okay? This one's called the fibularis longus. Some of the sheets may call it peroneus. Peroneus is an older term for fibularis. Peroneus, fibularis. Just call it fibularis. The last 3 then, posterior leg. These I know you see on people walking around. These are the 2 heads of the gastrocnemius. The gastrocnemius then has a long tendon that attaches to the calcaneus. You can call this tendon the calcaneal tendon. You can call it the Achilles tendon, which is the more common name. Okay? The gastrocnemius, there's a 37 and 38 on its 2 heads, and then there's a number 10 on the calcaneal or Achilles tendon. Okay? Deep 2, the gastrocnemius, you got to look on the model, is a synergist to the gastroc called the soleus. Okay? So there's a number on it. You have to take one of these heads off, and I don't do that during the test, so I'll identify it there or there. It's deep to the gastroc, soleus. The last one then is this one here. This one is similar to the extensor digitorum longus, except its tendons go under the foot and insert on the digits underneath, under the toes. When those tendons pull on those toes, it curls them. That's a flex. Number 12, flexor digitorum longus. Okay? I'll go over all these one more time. All right? Starting up front, we have rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, sartorius, tensor fasciae latae, iliotibial band or tract. Gracilis, adductor magnus, adductor longus, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, peroneus or fibularis longus, gastrocnemius, soleus, flexor digitorum longus, iliacus, psoas major. Let's put this back. Gluteus medius, gluteus maximus. Okay? Take another 15 minutes or so to work on this, and then